there's so many historical events that that make humans look pretty miserable, and then there's also so many that make humans look pretty darn impressive. And it really, and sometimes, oftentimes, it'll be the same period of time in the same element of society, you could say, and they behave completely differently depending on the circumstances. And one of the more optimistic stories came after the founding of the state of Wisconsin, which it was in 1848, and it was at the time there were a lot of refugees from the uprisings all over Europe that were killing tens of thousands of people at the time, and overthrowing most of the governments of Europe at the time, and at least temporarily. And so there were a lot of refugees from Germany coming over, in particular around that time, settling in the places that were available for Europeans to settle, because the whole program was to move people west, give them a gun, move them west, tell them to go take that land. That's the whole program here. And they came from a background where the whole question of the enslavement of human beings was a very important issue for them to be against. And they were freeing the serfs in a lot of European countries where they had a form of slavery, and they didn't want to have it here. And when the Fugitive Slave Act was passed in the United States, that said that anywhere an escaped slave was found in a free state or a slave state, they had to be returned to their so-called owners. And when that law passed in the Congress, it was very controversial in particular places like in Wisconsin and New England, a lot of other places. But in Wisconsin, they only tried to enforce the new law once. And what happened was pretty much everybody who had a horse in the state of Wisconsin descended on the jail in Milwaukee to free the prisoner. Gather around me, friends, I'll tell you a tale about the day one young man was taken off to jail and shipped north up Lake Michigan for a trial to see if he should be sent back to live in slavery. Life of bondage was what Joshua had seen. Then he left Missouri and moved to Racine, where he worked in a sawmill by the lake shore in Wisconsin in 1854. When the word got round, outrage spread. The idea of sending people back to the bondage they had fled was one that could not be allowed to stand, although it was the law of the land. Passed by the Congress 4 years prior, guaranteed to start a prairie fire, which was what would be in store in Wisconsin in 1854. Thousands went to Haymarket Square, the most people who had ever gathered there. In Racine, where they decided they'd go see how that trial would go up in Milwaukee. When they got there and looked around, saw the thousands more people on the ground who had come on horseback, ready for war in Wisconsin in 1854. Jail turned out to be no match at all for all of the people who had answered the call. They laid siege to the place till they'd gotten their man. Then together the thousands they ran away from the cops, and then onward for the Underground Railroad brought him north. So Joshua Glover would be a slave nevermore in Wisconsin in 1854. No more attempts would ever be made since that Milwaukee prison raid to enforce this federal law after the rising that everyone saw. It was dead in the water, and that's a fact. The Fugitive Slave Act. When all the people said what they stood for in Wisconsin in 1854. Gather round me, friends, I'll tell you a tale about the day one young man was taken off to jail and shipped north up Lake Michigan for a trial to see if he should be sent back to live in slavery.
Beautiful.